Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest.
And I'm Hemkaur Soroya. On the show today, US President, ahead of a meet with Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky, has said that Ukraine can forget about joining NATO. And this is the two sides are close to securing a minerals deal. That too, in which the United States has refused to make any promises on aid and support for Ukraine. How will things pan out on that front? That is something we will be tracking on the show today.
It's really been a pivot shift for the US away from Ukraine. Also, in other developments from West Asia, Hamas has handed over the bodies of hostages as part of the ceasefire agreement. With this, the first phase of the deal is complete, which saw the release of 33 hostages. We'll bring you the full details on that front as well. Let's start with the headlines. This is World DNA.
Palestinian prisoners released by Israel arrive in the West Bank city of Ramallah after bodies of 4 Israeli hostages handed over by Hamas as part of the Gaza ceasefire deal.
US President Donald Trump confirms Ukraine's Zelensky will visit the White House to sign a rare earth minerals deal, but says the US will not provide significant security guarantees to Kiev as part of the agreement.
We have made a decision, and we'll be announcing it very soon, and it'll be 25%, generally speaking, and that'll be on cars and all of the things. And
Iran will never.
Donald Trump vows to slap 25% tariffs on the European Union, claiming the 27-country bloc was formed to counter the United States. US President says tariffs against Canada and Mexico may take effect in April.
US reports first death from measles in almost a decade. Health officials report death of a child from the disease in West Texas.
NASA launches satellite on mission to detect water on the moon. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifts off from the Kennedy Space Center, carrying NASA's Lunar Trailblazer orbiter.
US President Donald Trump urges Apple to eliminate its diversity, equity and inclusion policies, DEI, calling them a hoax. His comments follow a shareholder vote where Apple overwhelmingly backed DEI despite growing conservative opposition.
Afghanistan knock England out of the Champions Trophy. Ibrahim Zadran's 177 and 5 wickets from Azmatullah Omarzai guided Afghanistan to an 8-run victory.
Donald Trump's administration has laid the groundwork for more large-scale layoffs at his cabinet's first meeting.
Right, this despite not having a ministerial portfolio. Doge chief Elon Musk attended the meeting as well and pledged that he would quickly move to slash spending.
Now, the layoffs so far have focused on probationary workers who lack full employment protections. Trump's administration is now preparing for deeper cuts targeting career employees. A memo released ahead of the cabinet meeting called for a significant reduction but did not specify how many workers should be laid off. Now, this slash would be beyond the 100,000 civilian federal workers who have already taken a buyout or been fired.
we're cutting down government. We're cutting down the size of government. We have to. We're bloated. We're sloppy. We have a lot of people that aren't doing their job. We have a lot of people that don't exist.
Over the weekend, federal workers received an email requiring them to list their accomplishments for the week. And Musk told the cabinet meeting his email was an attempt to find out whether government paychecks were going to actual workers.
He said there are a number of people on the government payroll who are dead. Trump suggested that the roughly 1 million workers who did not respond to Musk's email might be at risk of losing their jobs.
I'd like to add that those million people that haven't responded, though, Elon, they are on the bubble. You know, I wouldn't say that we're thrilled about it. You know, they haven't responded. Now, maybe they don't exist. Maybe we're paying people that don't exist. Don't forget, we just got here. This group just got here. But those people are on the bubble, as they say. You know, maybe they're going to be gone. Maybe they're not around. Maybe they have other jobs. Maybe they moved and they're not where they're supposed to be.
Now, agencies would have to submit plans by the 13th of March. That's a day before the current government funding is due to expire. Trump said at the cabinet meeting that the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Lee Zeldin, will reduce the headcount at the agency by 65%. The agency currently employs more than 17,000 people out of the over 2 million total U.S. federal workforce.
Right now, we're trying to find out who those people are that haven't responded. Now, there'll be some agencies, like Marco has people within state that are right now doing very classified, very confidential work, and we understand that, and we've talked, and we're being a little more surgical. And Marco's doing a lot of things himself. And some of the secretaries, we're going to be going to them. We're going to be talking about it today. We're going to ask them to do their own DOJ. In other words, they'll look in their group and I spoke with Lee Zeldin, and he thinks he's going to be cutting 65% or so of the people from environmental. And we're going to speed up the process, too, at the same time.
Elon Musk, who is in charge of downsizing the government, told the cabinet that the goal of the DOJ team is to help address the enormous deficit, saying America cannot sustain a $2 trillion deficit. The billionaire said the U.S. must move quickly to achieve a $1 trillion reduction from the country's deficit, warning that the country would go bankrupt without spending cuts.
But we do need to move quickly.
He's standing in the first cabinet meeting.
Have you heard you're a nasty fascist?
We need to move quickly if we're to achieve a $1 trillion deficit reduction in financial year 2026. It requires saving $4 billion per day, every day, from now through the end of September. But we can do it, and we will do it.
Have you heard you're a nasty fascist? Have you heard you're a nasty fascist?
All right, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has also sent us a report from New York mentioning what the key highlights of President Trump's first cabinet meeting for his second term were. Let's listen to this.
President Donald Trump outlined an ambitious agenda focused on significant federal budget reductions and a shift in foreign policy. Elon Musk, appointed as head of DOJ, talked about plans to cut $1 trillion out of the $6.7 trillion federal budget within the year. This initiative aims to streamline governmental operations, although it has raised concerns about potential disruptions to essential workers. On the international front, President Trump addressed the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, stating that Ukraine should, quote unquote, forget about joining NATO. He also announced plans to engage directly with Russian President Vladimir Putin to negotiate a possible end to hostilities. President Trump also talked about the Middle East conflict.
Susan also shared details on the role Elon Musk played in President Trump's first cabinet meeting and the initiatives he introduced. Listen to this.
Elon Musk, serving as the head of Doge, played a pivotal role in this meeting. He presented a comprehensive plan for the reduction of about $1 trillion within the current fiscal year, targeting insufficiencies in different agencies and various government entities. Musk acknowledged that there will be challenges of this aggressive downsizing strategy, including the potential for errors. He also talked about how he's been receiving threats due to this controversial project, even death threats. Despite the challenges, he said that the national debt needs to be reduced to prevent a looming financial crisis.
All right, and US President Donald Trump has said that his administration will soon announce a 25% tariff on imports from the European Union.
He also signaled that duties on Canada and Mexico will take effect in early April. Speaking at the first cabinet meeting of his second term as president, Trump claimed that the EU was created in an attempt to counter the US.
The European Union's it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
Now asked if he had made a decision on tariff levels for the bloc, Trump added that he will be announcing it very soon and it will be 25%. The US president said this would hit products including cars, adding that the EU has really taken advantage of the United States.
EU tariffs, Mr. President, have you just made a decision on what level you will seek on tariffs in the European Union?
We have made a decision, and we'll be announcing it very soon, and it'll be 25%, generally speaking, and that'll be on cars and all of the things. And the European Union is a different case than Canada, different kind of case. They've really taken advantage of us in a different way. They don't accept our cars. They don't accept essentially our farm products. They use all sorts of reasons why not.
The European Commission shot back that the European Union is the world's largest free market and has been a boon for the United States. A European Commission source said that the bloc would respond firmly and immediately to new tariffs.
Now, former Swedish Prime Minister Carl Bildt, writing on X, said that Trump had a seriously distorted view of history, as the EU was actually set up to prevent war on the European continent.
Trump had earlier announced and paused blanket tariffs on neighbors Canada and Mexico over illegal immigration and fentanyl smuggling. Trump said he was not stopping the tariffs, adding that he planned for levies to take effect on the 2nd of April.
The damage has been done. We've lost millions of people due to fentanyl. It comes mostly from China, but it comes through Mexico and it comes through Canada. And I have to tell you that, you know, on April 2nd, I was going to do it on April 1st, but I'm a little bit superstitious, so I made it April 2nd. The tariffs go on, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I think you're going to see something that's going to be amazing. We've been taken advantage of as a country for a long period of time. We've been tariffed.
The US has reported first death from measles in a decade, and health officials on Wednesday confirmed the death of a child from the disease in West Texas.
Now, this year, more than 130 measles cases already have been reported in West Texas and neighboring New Mexico. Most of these cases have been witnessed in unvaccinated children.
The Texas Health Department said that the child who was not vaccinated against the disease died overnight in a children's hospital. Around 20 people have been hospitalized in Texas so far, and officials warn the outbreak is likely to grow further.
We're here to confirm that a patient has passed away from complications caused by the measles virus. The child was school-aged and did not reside in Lubbock County. We do want to say our thoughts and prayers are with this family.
Now, during a cabinet meeting, the new U.S. Secretary of Health, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., said that 2 people had died in Texas outbreak. However, he did not provide the details. Health authorities in Texas and New Mexico have not mentioned a second death yet.
Epidemic every day. I think there's 124 people who have contracted measles at this point in Gaines County, Texas. Mainly, we're told in the Mennonite community. There are 2 people who have died, but We're watching it, and there are about 20 people hospitalized, mainly for quarantine. We're watching it.
According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the last U.S. measles death was in 2015. Measles was declared as eliminated in the U.S. in 2000, meaning there was no continuous transmission of the disease for a year. In recent years, federal health officials have attributed some outbreaks to U.S. parents refusing to vaccinate their children. Coverage among kindergartners has dropped from 95.2% in the 2019-2020 school year to 92.7% in 2023-24, leaving some 280,000 children vulnerable.
We were confident that we'd eradicated measles from the United States and had really gotten to a point where we just didn't see these kinds of outbreaks happening. Obviously, that has changed over the last 20-something years, and so we do see outbreaks more frequently, but that is related to how much we're vaccinating our population. When we think about vaccine-preventable illnesses, they're only preventable if we have adequate vaccination rates. And as we see those rates start to decline, across the nation, then we'll see more outbreaks.
Now in 2024, there were 285 cases of the disease in the US from 16 outbreaks, up from 59 cases from 4 outbreaks in 2023. The current outbreak's epicenter is Gaines County, home to a large Mennonite community, a Christian sect related to the Amish. Texas law allows vaccine exemptions for reasons of conscience, including religious beliefs. And US President Donald Trump said Ukraine can forget about joining NATO.
And this as he prepares to host his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House later this week. Addressing reporters at the start of his first cabinet meeting of his second term, Trump said Zelensky would visit the US on Friday and sign the deal to share Ukraine's mineral wealth with the US. And the US president has long complained that the US has spent too much taxpayer money to support Ukraine in the war with Russia that began in 2022.
Trump has framed the emerging deal that would give the US access to Ukraine's deposits of rare earth minerals used in aerospace, defense and nuclear industries as a chance for Kyiv to pay Washington for aid already sent for the war under former President Joe Biden.
The previous administration put us in a very bad position, but we've been able to make a deal where we're going to get our money back and we're going to get a lot of money in the future, and I think that's appropriate because we have taxpayers that shouldn't be footing the bill, and they shouldn't be footing the bill at more than the Europeans are paying. So it's all been worked out. We're happy about it.
Zelensky said in a news conference early on Wednesday in Kiev that a framework of an economic deal had been reached, but that it did not yet include US security guarantees, which the country sees as vital. Trump, however, said that the US would not be providing security guarantees to Ukraine beyond very much, adding that European nations should assume that responsibility due to their geographical closeness to Ukraine.
Yeah, doing even more now.
Iran will never get a nuclear weapon.
That's true.
Against ISIS by untying.
We have a big ocean separating us, so it's very important for Europe, and they hopefully will step up and do maybe more than they're doing, and maybe a lot more.
Now, the latest version of the agreement seen by the Associated Press says the US supports Ukraine's efforts to obtain security guarantees needed to establish lasting peace. It does not spell out any US commitment to provide them.
UK Prime Minister has jetted off to meet with Trump in Washington amid a row over his shock announcement to hike UK's defense spending to 2.5%. Zelensky is most likely to join a meeting, and Starmer is hosting 4 European leaders on Sunday.
Now, talking about ending the war, Trump said that he is confident about being able to reach a deal between Russia and Ukraine, adding that Russian President Vladimir Putin will have to make certain concessions without going into the details of what they might be.
He's a very smart guy. He's a very cunning person, but I've dealt with some people I've dealt with some really bad people. But I will tell you, as far as this is concerned, you have to understand, he had no intention, in my opinion, of settling this war. I think he wanted the whole thing.
According to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, senior Russian and US diplomats are expected to hold talks again on Thursday in Istanbul. The meeting follows talks in Saudi Arabia last week that marked an extraordinary shift in US foreign policy under Trump and a clear departure from US-led efforts to isolate Russia over its war in Ukraine. The bodies of 4 Israeli hostages have been handed over by Hamas, and the office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has confirmed this.
Now, they have received the coffins of 4 fallen hostages, and a process to formally identify them has started in Israel as well. Soon after, a bus carrying a first group of more than 600 Palestinian prisoners released by Israel arrived to a cheering crowd in the occupied West Bank city of Ramallah, wearing traditional keffiyeh scarves and jackets to cover their jail uniforms. The freed prisoners descended from the bus before a jubilant crowd.
And then they headed to a quick health checkup, and this marks the final swap under the first phase of the deal that went into effect on the 19th of January. The agreement provided for the release of 33 hostages, including the bodies of 8 by the 1st of March in exchange for 1,900 Palestinians held by Israel. Those were the terms.
Now, earlier, the family and relatives of an Israeli mother and her 2 children who were killed in captivity in Gaza bid them farewell during their funeral in southern Israel. The funeral took place after thousands of Israelis lined highways as bodies of the family members were taken for burial. People gathered in Jerusalem next to the Prime Minister's residence to release orange balloons in honor of the Bibas children. Shiri Bibas and her 2 sons, 9-month-old Kifir and 4-year-old Ariel, were taken to Gaza by militants on the 7th of October 2023 during that attack. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has said that a decision on how to move forward with the Gaza ceasefire has to be made by Israel.
Well, I'm very disappointed when I see four bodies came in today. These are young people. Young people don't die, okay? Young people don't die. These are young people. 4 bodies came in today. They think they're doing us a favor by sending us bodies. So, look, that's a decision that has to be made by Israel, by Bibi. But Israel has to make that decision. We got a lot of hostages back. But it's very sad what happened to those people. I mean, you had a young lady with her hand practically blown off.
In Washington, President Trump's top envoy to West Asia, Steve Witkoff, said that Israeli representatives were en route to talks on the next phase of the ceasefire. He said the talks will either take place in Doha or in Cairo, with the negotiators from Egypt and Qatar. Furthermore, the UN rights chief has rejected the proposals for the annexation or forced transfer from Palestinian territories. He called the proposals unlawful, warning that they posed a threat to the entire region. US President Donald Trump has repeatedly proposed emptying war-ravaged Gaza of Palestinians.
We must resist any normalization of unlawful conduct, including proposals for annexation or forced transfer, which could threaten the peace and security of Palestinians and Israelis and of the wider region. This is the moment for voices of reason to prevail, for solutions that will deliver justice and make space for compassion, healing, and truth-telling.
Meanwhile, Gazans had a clear response to the video posted by Donald Trump promoting his idea of Gaza as a beach resort without its current inhabitants. That showed belly dancers and a huge golden statue of himself. Now, Gazans questioned why Trump wouldn't visit Gaza and help rebuild it with its inhabitants in place.
If we say to him, leave your land, would he be happy? Trump or others, would they be happy by their own displacement? They won't be happy because it's their land. I have lived in Gaza. Now I don't want to go to Egypt. I would live the rest of my life feeling that I have been wronged and like a stranger.
We are asking him, why displace its people? Why doesn't he come and say, welcome, come and rebuild Gaza with its people in it? Its people can rebuild it. He can pay money, fix things, and free us from this occupation.
On the other hand, in the occupied West Bank region, Palestinians evacuated the Nur Shams refugee camp as Israel prepares for an extended stay in the region. Residents of the refugee camp say they were told to leave due to demolition orders.
Now, Israel sent tanks into the West Bank for the first time in more than 20 years on the 23rd of February. At least 40,000 Palestinians have left their homes in Tulkarm and the nearby city of Jenin in the northern West Bank since Israel began its operation just a day after reaching a ceasefire agreement in Gaza. All right, with that, it's time now for a short break.
Don't go anywhere. This is World DNA. Him and I will be back with you on the other side. When we come back, US President Donald Trump has reportedly released funds worth over $5 billion to counter narcotics and security threats. And reports say that the US President has also cleared a $397 million fund to sustain Pakistan's F-16 fleet. We'll be bringing you all the details on that front.
Also on the other side, Afghanistan knocked England out of the Champions Trophy with an 8-run victory in Lahore. More details on the other side. Stay tuned.
Pakistan's long wait to host a global cricket event is finally over.
I assure every cricket fan and supporter that Pakistan is ready for the Champions Trophy.
For the first time in almost 3 decades, an ICC event is being held in the country. India's refusal to travel to Pakistan adds an extra edge to the already fierce rivalry. Catch all the drama, action and controversy from both on and off the pitch, only on WION.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
All right, welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on this side of the show as well. Let's get started with the headlines first.
Palestinian prisoners released by Israel arrive in West Bank city of Ramallah after bodies of 4 Israeli hostages were handed over by Hamas as part of the Gaza ceasefire deal.
US President Donald Trump confirms Ukraine's Zelensky will visit the White House to sign a rare earth minerals deal, but says the US will not provide significant security guarantees to Kyiv as part of the agreement.
We have made a decision, and we'll be announcing it very soon, and it'll be 25%. Generally speaking, and that'll be on cars and all of the things. And
Iran will never.
Trump vows to slap 25% tariffs on the European Union, claiming the 27-country bloc was formed to counter the US. President Trump says tariffs against Canada and Mexico will take effect in April.
US reports first death from measles in almost a decade. Health officials report death of a child from the disease in West Texas.
NASA launches satellite mission to detect water on the moon. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifts off from the Kennedy Space Center carrying NASA's Lunar Trailblazer orbiter.
General Motors announces a 25% increase in its quarterly dividend and a new $6 billion share buyback program. The automaker plans to repurchase $2 billion in shares by mid-2025, with the rest at its discretion.
Afghanistan knock England out of the Champions Trophy. Ibrahim Zadran's 177 and 5 wickets from Azmatullah Omarzai guided Afghanistan to an 8-run victory.
Now, South Korea's Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial is over, and now he awaits verdict on his presidency from the country's constitutional court.
On the final day of the hearing, Yoon Suk-yeol apologized for his martial law order, but he also mentioned that the decision was taken because the country was facing an existential crisis.
External forces, including North Korea, along with anti-state elements within our society, are working together to seriously threaten our national security and sovereignty.
Let's take a look back at how South Korea's political crisis unfolded. Yoon declared martial law on the 3rd of December 2024. Although it lasted only for 6 hours, it shook the South Korean system to its core. On the 7th of December then, 2024 again, South Korea's National Assembly assembled to impeach Yoon, but it failed as there was no quorum. The Assembly gathered again on the 14th of December, and this time they impeached Yoon Suk-yeol.
The Constitutional Court began its trial on the 14th of January, but Yoon Suk-yeol failed to appear in court. The trial then continued, and Yoon Suk-yeol reached the court for the first time on the 21st of January. Former Defence Minister Kim Yong-hyun appeared before the court on the 23rd of January, and court held its 5th hearing on the 4th of this month. After 9 hearings and hours of deliberations, the Constitutional Court held its 10th and last hearing on the 25th of February, when Yoon Suk-yeol delivered his final remarks before the court.
So now the court is expected to deliver its next verdict next month. Yoon's impeachment is upheld. If Yoon's impeachment is upheld, then fresh elections will be called within 60 days. If the court overturns the impeachment, he will take over his duties as president again and will continue in that post till 2027, when his first 5-year term ends.
A vessel carrying 1,000 tons of sodium perchlorate was a key ingredient used in making nuclear weapons has been docked in Iran.
Now, this comes just a month after 2 Iranian cargo ships were loaded with the chemical in China. The 2 Iranian container vessels, that's Golban and Jairan, docked into China back in January to load the sodium perchlorate. Reports suggest that the Golban has returned to Iran while Jairan is yet to leave China.
In January, a Wall Street Journal report said that the Golban loaded a cargo at the Xiushan Island near Ningbo in central China. In later left for Taikang port in northern China. The Jairan, on the other hand, has largely remained stationary at the Liuheng port in central China.
Though there was no clarity on when the deliveries were ordered from China, Western authorities say the sodium perchlorate can be used to create 960 tons of ammonium perchlorate. The chemical can then be used to produce at least 260 mid-range ballistic missiles. The 2 vessels are controlled by US-sanctioned affiliate, Islamic Republic of Iran Shipping Lines.
Tehran has been increasingly relying on Beijing for its ballistic missiles program ever since Washington sanctioned its nuclear program. Further, Iran's missile inventory has also significantly declined after Israel launched multiple strikes last year.
And Washington is taking steps to counter terrorism.
This is despite a 90-day freeze on foreign aid. US President Trump reportedly released funds worth over $5 billion to counter narcotics and security threats. And reports say that the US President also cleared a $397 million fund to sustain Pakistan's F-16 fleet.
Now, this report states the fund allotted to Pakistan is strictly meant to maintain the Pakistani fleet in countering terrorism. It says Washington will monitor Islamabad to ensure the fund and the fleet are not used against India.
This move marks a reversal from Trump's 2018 policy. In his first term, Donald Trump administration had suspended security assistance to Pakistan, citing concerns over insufficient action against terrorist networks. The report comes just days before the 6th anniversary. And this report came earlier in the week. This was before the anniversary of the Balakot airstrikes that India carried out in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province back in 2019, when India struck Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist camps in response to the Pulwama terror attack. The Pulwama attack is one of the deadliest attacks on Indian soil, where 40 soldiers were killed.
After India carried out its Balakot operation, Pakistan's Air Force struck back to target Indian military sites near the line of control. This was when India said Pakistan used US-supplied F-16s to conduct its airstrikes. New Delhi also showed the fragments of AIM-120 AMRAAM missile that was fired from F-16 during a clash between India-Pakistan air forces.
A US Today report said that Andrea Thompson, the then Under-Secretary of State for Arms Control and International Security Affairs, had sent a strongly worded written letter to head of the Pakistani Air Force, Air Chief Marshal Mujahid Anwar Khan, reprimanding Islamabad over the use of US-supplied F-16s against India. An unknown illness has killed 53 people in northwestern DR Congo in just 5 weeks, with doctors warning that it is spreading fast and has a high fatality rate.
Now, this outbreak started on the 21st of January in Boloko after 3 children ate a bat and died within 48 hours. Soon after, others in the community began falling ill. The disease spread quickly, and by the 9th of February, a second wave of cases emerged in Bomet. Since then, 419 cases have been recorded.
Symptoms include high fever, vomiting, severe internal bleeding, and most patients died within just 48 hours of showing symptoms. Lab tests on the samples sent to a medical institute have ruled out Ebola, Marburg, and other common hemorrhagic fevers. However, some cases tested positive for malaria, though experts say that this does not fully explain the outbreak.
Now, the WHO warns that outbreaks linked to wildlife consumption are on the rise, with such incidents in Africa increasing by over 60% in the last decade. The Democratic Republic of Congo has been battling multiple disease outbreaks, including Mpox, typhoid, and malaria. Just last year, another mystery illness killed 143 people that was later suspected to be malaria. All right, your tea might be more than just a refreshing beverage.
A new study from Northwestern Engineering reveals that tea can naturally filter heavy metals like lead and cadmium from water, and the metal particles stick to the tea leaves, trapping toxins before they reach your body. The longer you steep, the better it works. And black tea, fine ground leaves and overnight brews remove even more contaminants.
Now, it's not just the tea, your tea bag matters as well. Cellulose bags absorb more metals and do not release microplastics, making them a smarter choice. Researchers say a simple cup of tea could remove up to 15% of lead from water, a small change that could have a big impact on your overall health.
While tea is not a replacement for clean water, it is a bonus benefit for tea lovers everywhere. So pour yourself a cup, steep a little longer though.
All right, peace talks between the United States and Russia over Ukraine have put the spotlight on what the brands will do when the war ends.
Now, since the onset of the conflict back in 2022, over 1,000 Western companies exited Russia, leaving behind a void in the retail and automotive sectors. However, the Russian market has adapted rapidly.
Now, in retail, Russian brands have capitalized on the absence of foreign competitors. Companies like Henderson report 3 times the growth rate of the overall menswear market. In shopping malls, prime locations once reserved for Western stores are now filled with domestic players. So despite fewer visitors to malls, down to 20% that's compared to 2019, Russian consumers have increasingly turned to local products.
In the automotive sector, the departure of major Western brands has been filled largely by Chinese manufacturers who now account for over 50% of new car sales in Russia. Domestic car makers have also gained ground, claiming about 30% of the market, up from just 20% before the conflict. And this shift marks a dramatic change from the early 2000s when foreign companies dominated Russia's car industry. Meanwhile, foreign goods, including spare parts, are still available thanks to Russia's legalization of grey imports through third countries, which bypass restrictions on trademark ownership.
While the retail sector faces ongoing challenges, some Western companies are choosing not to return. Some executives have made it clear that there are no immediate plans to re-enter Russia. However, the Russian retail market is showing signs of resilience with increased sales in domestic brands and continued availability of foreign goods through alternative channels. Meanwhile, Russian consumers are expressing a clear preference for having the freedom to choose whether from domestic or foreign options once again.
And the US economy appears strong on the surface with low unemployment and stable inflation expectations.
However, beneath the surface, a growing wealth divide is reshaping consumer spending. In our next report, we break down the numbers and what they mean for the broader economy. Take a look.
The U.S. economy is starting to turn iffy, and a deeper look reveals a widening wealth divide. Households earning above $153,000 a year are driving consumer spending, while those earning below $73,000 face increasing financial strain. Unlike high-income earners, low-income households have limited exposure to appreciating assets like stocks and real estate. Instead, they are relying more on credit cards to maintain their spending power. With credit card interest rates above 20%, financial pressure is mounting, forcing many to make tough choices. Debt levels among lower-income households are climbing, with warning signs emerging in consumer credit data. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, total consumer debt in delinquency is now at a 5-year high. More than 11% of credit card accounts are at least 90 days overdue, the highest since 2011. Additionally, newly delinquent credit card accounts have reached 9%, levels not seen in over a decade. Meanwhile, data from the Philadelphia Federal Reserve shows the share of credit card holders making only minimum payments is now at a 12-year high. These trends indicate growing financial stress among millions of Americans. While there is no immediate crisis, the concentration of spending power among high earners makes the economy vulnerable. If asset values such as stocks, homes, or cryptocurrencies decline, consumer spending could weaken sharply. Consumer sentiment is already showing signs of strain. That pessimism has Americans cutting back their spending. According to a new study from Wells Fargo, more than half of consumers are delaying major life plans due to uncertainty over the economy. Of those, about a third said they were putting off buying a home, while 1 in 6 have postponed education plans, and 1 in 8 have pushed back retirement. At the same time, non-prime borrowers are struggling, with default rates rising faster than broader credit population. However, some economists remain cautiously optimistic, noting that while delinquencies are high, their rate of growth has slowed. Still, as financial pressures persist, experts warn that the resilience of the U.S. economy will depend on how well consumers manage rising debt, high borrowing costs, and the Trump effect. This is Bureau Report. WION World is One.
All right, over to cricket now. Ibrahim Zadran's 177 and 5 wickets by Azmatullah Omarzai helped Afghanistan knock England out of the Champions Trophy.
And this marks Three Lions' second straight ODI loss to the Afghans after their shock defeat in the 2023 World Cup in India. Afghanistan won the toss and elected to bat first, but had a nightmare of a start. England's fast bowler Jofra Archer struck early, taking 3 quick wickets and reducing Afghanistan to 37 for 3. Ibrahim Zadran steadied the innings. He formed a crucial 4th wicket partnership of 103 runs with skipper Hashmatullah Shahidi. However, leg spinner Adil Rashid broke the stand, bowling Shahidi out for 40.
Zadran reached his 7th ODI century by a single off Liam Livingstone. He went on to put up a 72-run stand with Azmatullah Omarzai, who was dismissed for 41. Zadran continued to anchor the innings, adding another vital 111-run partnership with Mohammad Nabi for the 6th wicket. He surpassed his previous ODI best of 162, finishing with a remarkable 177 of 146 balls. Not only did Zadran break his own record for Afghanistan's highest individual ODI score, but he also set a tournament record. Afghanistan eventually ended their innings on 325 for 7.
England's chase merely rattled along as the dismissal of Phil Salt and Jamie Smith jolted them early. They were reduced to 30 for 2. Joe Root steadied the innings with 2 crucial partnerships, and he added 68 runs with Ben Duckett for the 3rd wicket, followed by an 83-run stand with captain Joss Butler for the 5th wicket. Root brought up his 17th ODI century with a single off Rashid Khan. His knock was eventually cut short for 122 despite still needing 17 from 14 balls with 3 wickets in hand. England's chase crumbled and Adil Rashid and Mark Wood required 13 from the final over with 1 wicket in hand. But the duo could manage only singles from the first 4 balls, and Rashid was then caught at long off the penultimate delivery, leaving England all out for 317.
Well, enjoy tonight. But what to the players, I'm going to make sure when we wake up tomorrow, they enjoy tonight. Wake up tomorrow ready for Australia. As soon as they wake up tomorrow, the focus is on Australia. That's how the players are going to be, and that's what I'll tell the fans.
Yeah, I think obviously the results aren't where they need to be, and personally need to consider all possibilities, and like I say, obviously we need to get us as a team back to where England